makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In this episode, we are going to have a conversation with Vonda Page. She is the founder and CEO of Radical Change LLC. She is a trailblazing changemaker that guides leaders and organizations to grow and experience meaningful outcomes. Good morning, Vonda. I hope I'm saying your name right because I forgot to ask you.
You got it right. Thank you. Good morning. I am so excited to talk to you today.
Me too. I am super excited as well. You are a leadership consultant and founder of Radical Change LLC. You are doing amazing work changing the face of corporate leadership, and I can't wait to learn more about you and also the company. But I'm curious to know, how did you get into leadership?
Well, I love that question. And believe it or not, I have been in leadership since I was 6 years old. I was actually president of my first grade class. And so I think that really was the beginning for me because I was an only child, right? So I didn't have siblings and I wasn't a big sister, and so somehow being an only child and being around a lot of adults that were very much older than me at an early age, it really did something for me in terms of developing leadership skills. So I've been a leader since basically I was 6 years old. And throughout, my life, right, whether in school, in elementary school and middle school, all the way through college, and then in my professional career, I've always had roles in leadership where I was either advising leaders or leading the team or leading the project or even leading the leaders.
Wow. I feel like your mom, when your mom was pregnant, when she said, I am giving birth to a leader.
You know what? I bet that has happened. I bet that happened. And you know what? Even if it wasn't her, it was our other ancestors, right?
Absolutely, because that's like it's in your blood.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, what prompted you to shift to make that corporate change from leader in the corporate world and say, I'm going to be a consultant entrepreneur and start your own company?
I love that question because what's interesting is I have actually been an entrepreneur for a very, very long time. And in fact, my second job that I ever had when I was 16, I actually did that job as an entrepreneur. So really quickly, I'll tell you how that happened. So my first job, like my first real job, where they make you pay taxes, was as a business consultant for an insurance company. So I worked for a man named Mr. Parker, and Mr. Parker owns his own insurance company, and he had two full-time employees that were like, accounting, financial type people, right, and an operations type person. Well, in my high school, I joined a program to have like a real world job working in business. And so I got assigned to work at Mr. Parker's office. So on my second day, I was tasked with installing the fax machine in terms of they just got a fax machine and they wanted to implement the business of how do you use a fax machine with the insurance business. Now, this was, are you ready? 1984. This was in 1984.
Before I was born.
And so I'm going to tell you the number one song in 1984 when I was going to work for Mr. Parker was When Doves Cry by Prince. You know that song?
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Okay. So I was 15 years old and I had a job in an insurance company. And my job was to take the brand new fax machine that just got installed and help Mr. Parker and his other two workers understand and figure out the best ways to incorporate that technology, which was new at the time, into their business processes. And so that next summer, when I was 16, Mr. Parker hired me on his own as a consultant to then redo his filing system. And he referred me to a woman who owned a daycare center. She hired me to do her filing system and then do a fax machine for her that next summer. So I actually started as an entrepreneur in 1985. And then I went out on my own again in 2010. And then I kind of do this thing where I kind of dip back into corporate because, you kind of feel like, oh, I can make a difference there and I can change the world and and then you get back in corporate and you realize you're only one person and you're trying to fight a system, and you're not going to dismantle any system from inside of the system because there's way more people working to uphold that system. And so when George Floyd was so brutally and horribly murdered in 2020, it just did something to me in a way that I could no longer try to pretend that I could fight in corporate America, that I could try to help leaders really step into their their position and help them understand how to meet a moment at a time when it is so critical that people use authenticity and use critical thinking and use empathy and use the skills, right, that leaders need, that was so needed in 2020. And so I looked across not only, corporations in America, but even around the world. And although people were talking and saying they cared and talking about it, nobody stepped up to really do anything, right? You heard about a few little this and a couple of that and a little bit of that. You got some, holidays declared and some black faces put on boxes of cereal and things in the stores, but nobody did anything substantial. And I decided at that point that I was not for another moment going to live in a space where I know that I am working in a position where people are trying to gaslight me, where people are trying to make me believe something that is not true. And I realized that although I may need to, interact with corporate America and I may need to do these things, I don't have to spend the bulk of my energy there. And I definitely do not have to give my intellectual capital away, right, for pennies on the dollar compared to what it's worth. And so I said, I am going to do something radical. I am going to develop my own leadership consultancy, and I am going to mentor people in a results focused way so that the way they meet me and the way that we engage and the way that we work together completely transforms the trajectory of their leadership from leadership to legendary status. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that in a company. And so although, right, you may not hear about a lot of Black women, out here coaching executives and coaching senior leaders, right? Well, I can tell you that by spending 37 years in corporate America, working side by side and in the shadows, right, of leaders from some of the world's top companies, right, and top global brands, I've learned a lot. And not only, right, through working with them and advising them, but also in my work, which has been helping organizations transform and adopt technology and then incorporate that into business. But you know what the key is? The key is making sure that you do it with people in mind, making sure that you are understanding what you're doing and how it's going to impact people. And that is where everything goes bad. Because when 2020 happened, right, we had the pandemic happening, we had George Floyd get killed in such a horrible way. Who stepped up? I mean, women, Black people, right? We protested, we marched, right? We did our thing. But where are like the CEOs? Where are the university presidents, right? Where were the government, leaders? Where were the mayors and governors and senators and school board where were, the top lawyers, in from some of the world's biggest law firms, right? Where were these people? The authors, the thought leaders that we look up to and that we think, oh, these people are so great. Nobody was doing anything, right? And so what
Exactly.
came to me was that there's a real lack of leadership here. There's a lack of leadership skills, and people don't know what the hell they're doing. And so I can't just sit here in corporate America and continue to beg people to listen to me while they exploit my human capital. I got to do my own thing. So I know that was a long answer, but I mean, that is literally, I've been an entrepreneur, since 1985. And in 2020, I had no choice because the circumstances brought me to this point in time.
I think it was more almost like a wake up call, and I think that even when COVID hit, I think that was only a wake up call for us as well. Is the fact that we were fighting with one another instead of standing as leaders and then try to make a difference. We're supposed to be the number one country in the world, and we didn't handle COVID right. Instead, we create a bigger mess. We goes with end up fighting between white and black. We end up starting doing things that we're not supposed to be doing. Like a few things happen with black specifically. A lot of things. A few different type of events happened during COVID with when it's come to black. It was a whole situation we created that didn't need to exist. And then after we created it, instead of standing as leaders and then said, "Hey, that's wrong," we actually did a bunch of crappy things. I called it. For example, I see a lot of movies coming out. They try to put characters of women in there, thinking that they try to make a difference, but at the end, you are these. You're putting women down. That's what you are doing because you're giving women a world. You didn't even introducing the world the proper way. You're making it sound like that women have power, but without even creating a power that's worth having, or even giving the how do I say that? Even giving like we fight for this. It's kind of like you try to make it like, oh, we're giving you this, but we're not asking you to give it to us. We're asking you to give us a chance to fight for it, to earn it, to make it ours. And then that's a lot of these things I was seeing. I don't know if you see the new Hulk movie and what Disney did. I think that was completely wrong because you're saying that there's an accident and then that girl, which is the cousin of Hulk, the blood mixing, and then she has power and she's saying, "I'm better than Hulk." It was just too crappy. And a bunch of these things were just happening. And they were doing it because they felt like they need to keep black be quiet, and they need to keep women in the shadow of be quieting as well. So if we create all these things, they all can just be quiet and then everyone moving with their life. But in reality, as black and as a black woman, it's not what we are asking. We are asking to give us the opportunity to prove ourselves because we know we can do things. We know we are capable of doing things. We just need a chance. And instead of giving us that chance, they make us look worse than ever by just say, "Here we go, you can have it." Even for me, when I see that what Joe did by just, oh, if I vice president as a black woman, that, oh, everybody will vote for me, everybody will love it. But I felt like because there's a different way it could have happened. It didn't have to be a black, it didn't have to be a black woman at all. It could have been any woman in the world, but just give that woman a chance to actually speak up, to actually have a voice, to actually stand up for a woman. Now we have a vice president that's not standing up for us at all. So at the end, it's not helping us as women. So I think all of these things with COVID in the middle of it that we didn't care about, it just make it worse. Feel like we are not leaders, we are not together, and then we are not helping. We are just looking out for ourselves, and that's really bad. And that's my point of view of what you said, and I completely agree with you on it. Completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, we have to, one of the things I do, right? So I'm a mentor, and one of the ways that I work with my mentees, with my clients, right, is I say, let's look at the gap. What is the gap from where you are, and what you're saying is what you really want to be and where you really want to go. So if we go back to the 2020 example, right, and we talk about all of these, let's call allies, right, whether you're talking about white women, white men, Asian women, Asian men, it doesn't matter, right? People who go around calling themselves allies, people who are working in diversity, equity, and inclusion, justice, belonging, whatever. People working in that space, right? 2020 happened. Oh, Black Lives Matter. We care, we care. It's one thing to say, right, that you care. It's one thing to say something's important. It's one thing to say, right? But it's another thing to actually examine where you actually are in your life and look at how you show up and what you're saying and what's that difference, because there's a whole lot of cognitive dissonance going on, right, where people believe they're good people. People believe they're doing the right thing. People believe they're a good leader, right? But if they were a good leader, for example, in the EEO space, in the equity space, right? Why would Black women's pay be at 58 cents on the dollar and to compare to a white man? Why would Black women's pay be 58 cents on the dollar compared to an Asian woman's 95 cents? Why would Black women's pay be 58 cents to the dollar if a white woman's pay is 81 cents? Why? How can any of those people help me? How can a white man help me? How can an Asian woman help me? How can a white woman help me? Or a Filipino, Pacific Islander? All them, right? Those groups have used me to climb on my back, right? To make more money than I am. But Black women are the most educated population in the American population, right?
Since
I
the
myself
beginning.
has a master's degree.
Yeah, since the beginning, even in slavery. It was kind of funny while I was in college. I learned that the flu vaccine that we are taking was actually created by a Black man because kids was sick and he was trying to save that kid life.
That's right.
But he didn't get credit for it. And when people are telling me that Obama was the first Black president, it's not true. So it was all these things when you go back in his story, like Black has been doing things, we just hide them. But why do we need to hide them when they can actually make us a better society?
And
And
that's
we're
because
live
of anti-Blackness. It's
exactly.
anti-Blackness.
Yeah.
Anti-Blackness.
That's one thing I didn't support in 2020 is Black Lives Matter. It's matter since the beginning of time. It's not just in 2020. It's not going to be just in 2021. And it's not going to be just in 2022. It matters since the beginning, and we should understand that and consider it and then implement it in our daily life. I'm Black and I'm not going anywhere. And unfortunately, you have my blood and your blood. So at the end of the day, you are Black with a different color.
And see, the thing is, right, when you speak truth, right, to people who are used to hearing lies, right? When you are saying things that go against the norm of what people are used to discussing, that's when it seems radical. So I have, so my company, right, Radical Change LLC really stands for Leaders Learn Change. Because back in 2012, I was working with a group of leaders in Texas, and it was, of course, it was all men, right? Mostly white, right? And I was really struggling to communicate with them around these things that they needed to do for this system implementation. And the implementation was happening. Like literally, they couldn't do anything about it. It was happening. But, they didn't like being told what to do. They definitely didn't like to be told what to do by a young Black woman. They definitely, didn't like to be feeling like their leadership was being questioned, right? That their work was being questioned. And it was like, hey, I'm asking you these questions because the work that we need to do involves moving from the way you were doing it to a new way. And so that's why I'm doing this. And so I was struggling with them to really get them to understand that I'm not trying to get you to be a different person. I'm not trying to get John to be a different John. I'm trying to get John to adapt his activities, his actions, his behaviors to a new system, to a new reality, that you can't keep this reality from happening. So even if we use, right, the pandemic in 2020 as any of those as an example, right? Well, once we had the information about the pandemic, which was back in November of 2019,
See?
right? Things could have been done, right? And we would have had far much less death. We'd have had far much less people that got ill, wouldn't have got as seriously ill. We know that, right? But why is it that there's a big portion of people who won't accept that as truth? Why is it that there's a big portion of people who refuse to acknowledge, well, of course, Black people are human beings that deserve, right, every opportunity, every right, every like that acknowledgement, right, and that lack of it is, it's about who people are inside. And so when I was working with these leaders, and I was like, all I'm trying to get you to do is get on one computer system from another. I'm not trying to get you to, let your child, marry somebody that you don't feel they should because they have a different skin color. I'm just trying to say your company is moving from this computer to this computer, and I'm trying to figure out, why is there such this resistance, right? Why is this struggle? What's going on? So what I started doing was asking people questions about who they are, and understanding at a cellular level, at a deep level, at a meaningful level, who do you think you are as a leader? And so if you believe you to be this person, but your behaviors, your actions, and the things you're doing indicate that you're showing up as that person, we got some work to do here. And
That's a
so that
problem.
work, that's a problem. And that work is that as a leader, you need to learn change, not learn how to change, but learn change itself, because change is an inevitable energy that you cannot stop, no matter what type of change you're talking about, right? So whether you're
Right.
talking about America becoming a blacker, browner, darker country, whether you're talking about, there being fewer and fewer people who are of European descent, right, in America, and even in Europe for that matter, right? You can't stop that. So what are people doing? They are fighting with everything they have in them, right? Including genocide and law and all of these things, right? To make it worse for some people and better for others, because they're trying to stop change. So leaders learn change, meaning leaders learn that although things might be happening that I don't like, or that I don't want to happen, I still can step up and meet the moment. And in this moment, right, I can be a leader, and I can take those actions and those steps that may be, they may feel discomfort, right? May bring on discomfort. They may bring on even like discouragement, right? Because I might
Mm-hmm.
feel like, bad about it. But at the end of the day, that's how you grow. You are not going to grow by staying comfortable, right? And so as change is happening, change is occurring, you can choose, right, to learn to acknowledge it and lead it and go with it, or you can choose to let change drag you around by the neck. And what we see, right, is those people who are letting change drag them around, right, are those people that are like, no, 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 we want to make this great again, and we want to do
Mm-hmm.
like it used to be, and we want to listen, we're doing it wrong. They're doing it wrong. I'm doing it right. You doing it right. We out here, right? We're leading, right? And one thing that people need to be doing for sure is listening to Black women. But in addition to that, right? People have to start to look at who they are versus who they say they are, and who they really want to be. And it's that
Exactly.
cognitive dissonance, right? So I know who I want to be, right? I am who I want to be. I am a leader. I'm that 6-year-old Vonda that stood on the desk and said, this is why I want you to vote for me for president, because I am smart. I am a good reader. I remember I said, I am smart. I am a good reader. I am good in math. I am kind. I am friendly, right? I care about people, right?
I
And,
love it.
and that's what a leader does, right? That's who a leader is. And so, it's been like a long journey. But at the same time, it's been an evolution that's also been natural. And part of leadership is really mentoring people, right? Whether you're
Yes,
doing it in a formal capacity or informal, right? Paid or voluntary, you have to always be thinking about how are you helping this next generation? What are you leaving behind? Or are you just like, oh, okay, I'm just trying to stack paper, make as much money as possible, and the hell with the world. So I'm going to not worry about climate change. I'm not going to worry about education. I'm not going to worry about the school to prison pipeline and all these private prisons. And you have to, at some point, whatever your gifts, your skills, the solutions that you have to say, if you really are about it, right, that you're going to step up and meet a moment that requires leadership. And so I feel like it's my duty. I think about Asada Shakur is one of my favorite people. And, she said, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win, right? And
exactly.
she said we must support each other and we must love each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. So when I think about my role as a leader, when I think about my role as a mentor, like what else would I be doing as a Black woman, right? Because not only because Black women only get paid 58 cents on a dollar, Black women are the most, as Malcolm said, disrespected and unprotected, right, members of the society. And that's on purpose because people just trying to stomp out the light of Black women, right? Because people are so unfortunately sad and miserable in their own thing, right? That they see Black women, out here doing the thing. They see Black women out here, stepping into leadership despite everything that we go through. I mean, think about Serena Williams retiring from tennis, right? After almost 30 years, 28 years, right? As a professional tennis player. They have treated that woman in the public so terrible from the beginning, right? Her and her entire family, and Venus as well, right? I mean, treated them terrible. And no matter how great they were, no matter how well they performed, no matter how much they won, every time they were getting celebrated, somebody was trying to tear them down, right? Think about recently that white lady, saying something horrible to them, like in an award ceremony. Like, so until that's no longer a reality, until this world respects and protects Black women like it respects and protects everybody else, I have to be a leader, and I have to teach leaders what that means and what that feels like. Because if I can do it as the least protected, least respected, right, lowest paid, person in the society that people expect the most from, which I also think is amazing, right? For all of the crap they talk about Black women, right? They expect the most from us.
From us.
They expect they want us to work for free, but they expect us to do the
Work
most.
hard, yes.
They
And do
call
you
us
know why?
lazy. They
Do
call
you
us
know?
lazy, but we could have the highest degree in our entire company and be making the lowest amount of money. I know people with PhDs working in customer service.
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately. And then I think the reason why even when people talk about slavery and go all back into these things, it's come again to that the reason why Black was the most in slavery is the fact that we were the hardest workers. And the reason why that you find Black everywhere you go is because they know if there is Black, things will be better.
That's right.
But at the same time, they try to keep us on a level where we don't have too much power. And even that they make society feel like they give us that power, but in the back end, we don't have any power. We're just being told what to do, and we just go and do it. So I think that if the leaders, the woman, the men that's in top, can actually start to speak up like, no, I don't have to do what you told me. I can go ahead and make a difference on my own. I think that will be a lot more changes. I think if more people like Martin Luther King come out, uh, may sleep in peace, that I think we will make a lot of more changes. I think we just need more women and men to come out and say, no, I don't need to be your puppy. I don't need to do what you told me to do because it's not right. Because we can do something different. Because I felt like, I'm not saying to just help Black, because we all are a society, we have to help everyone. But I think that more than ever now, Black need Black leaders to come out and lead.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I would take it a step further than what you said. And I would say that the leadership that we have had, whether you say for the last 400 years, 500 years, or 2,000 years, has not worked. We have poverty for no reason. We have hunger for no reason. We have, horrific violence for no reason, right? Except for those in charge, right? Allow
Mm-hmm.
it to happen. So we need a whole new faction of leaders. We need a new league of leaders. We need a league of leaders, right? Who want to go from leaders to legend. That means doing things that are hard. So it's more than about people speaking up, because it's so much deeper than that. So what I in doing, and I think this is a good, segue to really like dig deep into the work that I'm very much focused on within this leadership work, is really around unpacking anti-Blackness. And it is really around helping people first and foremost see that the reason that women don't have power, the reason that Black women are getting paid 58 cents, the reason that diversity, equity, inclusion, has Asian women at 95 cents on the dollar, and, white men still making a full dollar, is because people exploit Black women and try to make it seem like intersectionality and all this other things is good for Black women. None of it is good for Black women. Intersectionality is actually violence, because you're ignoring the fact that women are Black, right? That
Oh,
Black
yeah.
people can be women, Black people can be men, Black people can be queer, Black people can be disabled. So why do we have all of these other sections and all these other initiatives, and Black people in America especially continue to remain at the bottom of everything? And so as a leader, if you are a leader at a school, if you are a leader in a company, if you are a leader in the government, if you're a leader in law, or especially in the STEM fields, right? You need to be examining who you are as a human being. And that starts with looking at, what do you believe and think about Black people? What were you raised on believing about Black people? Do you believe that all Black people are lazy, so that's why we should be paid the least? If that is what you believe, you have to ask yourself, how does that line up with the fact that Black women are the most educated demographic in our country, but we are the least paid? That is something that a leader can fix. Do you understand? And a leader is a person that steps up. A leader is a person that levels up and says, I'm not going to be as concerned about my reputation or about what people think. I'm going to be concerned about doing the right thing. And so for me, right, the right thing can't really be done in the walls of corporate America, because in the walls of corporate America, I'm going to say, listen, my pay is 58 cents, but Chad's pay is $1. I have a master's degree and Chad has a general education degree, also known as a high school diploma. Why is Chad making $250,000 and I'm making 160? Help me understand. Well, the reason is because you believe that Chad has more value, because you've been programmed. And so, one of the things I've been doing, and I wrapped up last Saturday, is a master's class. And this master's class has been around unpacking anti-Blackness. And one of the things, right, that we really uncovered and talked about is how we are all programmed to be anti-Black. We are all programmed to have negative thoughts about Black people and about Blackness in general. Whether you are Black or not, you are raised and programmed to be anti-Black to a degree. Now, the degree at which you are anti-Black and the degree to which anti-Blackness shows up, right, in how you are interacting in the world, that depends on your environment, your education, your experience, your safety, your proximity to white people, your trauma, your healing if it's ongoing, if you've had any. So, being Black is traumatic in and of itself, especially here in America, because whether or not you came here as an immigrant because your family decided, hey, let's go to America, or whether you are a descendant of people who were stolen from Africa and brought over here in chains and made to work for hundreds of years, the experience of being Black in America and the experience of being a Black woman in America is a traumatizing experience every day, whether or not you have kids, whether you're a single person, because at any point in time that there are people out here that know, and they know your life isn't as valuable as others because it's demonstrated in everything you see. It's demonstrated more. To me, the most blatant demonstration of it was 2020, when that person I will not say his name, when he murdered George Floyd over a 9-minute and 29 period of time, and all those people did nothing. Now, yeah, it was cops there threatening them, but it was 4 cops and it was dozens of people. And them dozens of people allowed 4 men to kill 1 man. And so anti-Blackness is that thing that we all have that says his life isn't worth as much.
And it's okay.
And it's okay. And so as a leader, you have to say at some point, I am not for that, if you really are. Now, the thing is, like I said, it's a lot of factors that go into, right, whether or not you are going to be able to do this work. It's a lot of factors that go into whether or not you're going to be able to stand up for yourself. It's a lot of factors that go into the fact of whether or not when you find out that you're being underpaid, that you're going to tell somebody, right? It's just like if a child gets abused or bullied, right? What goes into the fact of if a child decides to tell their parents? Does a child feel like the parent is going to do anything? Does a child think they're going to get in trouble? It's all these factors, right? That's how life is. There's factors for everything. So when it comes to you deciding and you're saying, well, I'm a leader because I manage people in a company. I'm a leader because I manage a classroom. I'm a leader because I manage a team, or I'm a lead. What does that really mean? What does that really look like? So if you're an employer out here and you have a team of 15 people, how many people are Black? And what's the reason? Oh, there's no Black people on a team of 15. Oh, I can't really find any Black what? You can't find any Black trombone players, Black engineers, Black pianists, Black gymnasts, Black swimmers, Black doctors.
We are everywhere.
Black what? What you can't find. So the bottom line is, because of the programming that tells you Black people aren't good enough, that tells you Black people are less, Black people are lazy, Black people this. Because of all that, the decisions that you're making every day are not even those decisions that align with who you say you are or even what you're trying to do. Because anti-Blackness is this thing, this undercurrent. Now, we've been calling it by different names, right? We talk about white supremacy. We talk about racism. Those are definitely things, right? But the undercurrent of what is the foundational way and thing that upholds white supremacy is anti-Blackness. And when we only use the term white supremacy, what we do is we tell Asian people that they can't be racist, which we know damn well Asian people can be racist. And we know that Asian people can be anti-Black because they are. And it's obvious. How would Asian women be making 95 cents for the same job a Black woman is making 58 cents? So these are statistics for jobs in corporate America, right? So,
exactly.
Well, how did that happen? Right? So the thing is, right, the Equal Pay Act went into effect in 1963. That's 59 years. If you were doing a job bad for 59 years, would your employer keep you on? So for 59 years, Black women's pay hasn't increased. We don't have equity, right? It's more Black people in jail, right? It's more Black people living in poverty, and more Asian, Latino, Middle Eastern, other folks, right, who immigrated to America that are all doing way better than Black Americans and all doing better than Black women, right, when it comes to economics. So the Equal Pay Act and DEI and all of those things that came out after it, it's all not done anything for Black women. But who do you
Absolutely
see?
not.
Who do you see working in DEI roles? Who do you see with these chief people officer roles? Who do you see with these jobs that they have a Black face on them, but yet the Black people still doing bad in the same area? So the hypocrisy of it, the nonsense of it all, I feel like it's, like I said, it's to me it's gaslighting, because people are trying to pretend that something is working that they know is not working. So that's why I wrote my book, Dump DEI, right? And because we have to dump diversity, equity, inclusion as a premise for equity, for inclusion, because it doesn't work. Because Black women are paid 58 cents on the dollar, right? And that's not the only stat that we can point to about, Black women making $1 million less than a white man over her lifetime of work, right? Black women making 42%, right, less than men, right? Like Black women making 37% less than Asian women. There's all these statistics, right? But then there's the statistics that say Black women are the most educated. Black women are the ones who want to get promoted. Black women are the one who want to go into leadership. Okay, so if we're the most educated and the most qualified and we have the highest desire, but yet we still at the bottom, then when Black women leave corporate America, they try to get the VC money. We get 0.25% of the VC money. Why are we even going for it? They don't want to give it to us. They don't want Black women to be successful. They don't want Black women to lead. So what Black women have to do, right, is for ourselves decide, are you going to keep sitting around and waiting for somebody else to give you something that they don't want to give you, even though you deserve it, even if you've earned it? Or are you going to take what you can get based on your own skills, your own strategies, and bringing your solutions to the table to make it happen? That's what I decided to do. And as a mentor for leaders, not only do I, of course, mentor women, but I mentor anybody, right, who wants to level up, who knows that they're going to have to do some work and some digging from who they say they are and want to be and how they're going to get there. And the thing is, right, people like the soft, the sweet. They like somebody to be like, yeah, but you like that, but is that really going to get the job done? Is that really going to drive results? You need somebody that's going to tell you what is the what's what. Somebody that's going to
Exactly.
be clear, candid, concise, but I'm also going to make sure you have all the tools you need, all the technique, and you're going to have time, because that's what people need when they're really, right, making a transformation, and when they're really transitioning and really trying to do something significant, like I said, which I think is moving from leader to becoming a legend.
Exactly. And I think that when you're talking about your company, what are the services that you offer?
So first and foremost, I like to say it's super simple. I offer mentorships, masterminds, memberships, and master classes. So first and foremost, I am a mentor. So I have what I call rolling results mentorships. So that means at any point in time, people can become onboarded and become one of my mentees, become a client, and we specifically work on their leadership challenge, right? Whatever that might be. So, for example, I have 6 clients right now that are all working on different things. 2 others that are working on the same thing, but I have 6 working on different things. So, for example, I have one client who is specifically working on ramping up her nonprofit, right? And really, even though she is a professional technologist, she has this passion and this drive for her nonprofit. So I'm working with her, right, to help her think through, what does that even look like? What does, what does this work that you want to do for the community, right? She wants to help young Black girls, in that middle school kind of age, right? So what does that look like? Then I have another client that is a 61-year-old white woman who is really on this journey, right, to heal from being raised, in a completely like segregated environment, right, and not having relationships with Black people, with, people of Hispanic or Asian heritage, right? So we're working on what that looks like, that unpacking, right, of your family, your history, and all of that. I have another client, a white gentleman. He's in his 50s like me, and we're working on, that what does it look like when you say you're a good white person, right? You say, I'm a good white man and I'm trying to be a good person. What does that actually look like in your real life? How do you actually do what you say, right? So you say, well, I want to be an advocate for anti-racism. I want to be an advocate for Black lives and making sure people get that. Okay, well, before you can be an advocate for Black people, you need to make sure all your stuff is healed. You need to make sure your family trauma, your personal trauma, your history, your relationships, your belief systems, your integrity. You got to make sure all that's on point. So one thing that I really do, right, in the mentoring is make sure that people understand that mentoring and is key, because a mentor is that person that can help you be a mirror to yourself, right? To help you be able to say, who are you, who you want to be. And if you see something in a mentor that you identify with, that says that's a direction where I want to go, or they have something that I want. So even those 4 people, right? Those 3 people that I talked about, right? One is a Black woman in her 30s. One is a white woman in her 60s. One is a white man in his 50s, right? And I have another, a white woman, she's in her 40s. I have another Black man, he is 30, right? And so people are at different ages, right? And different times in their career, in their life, right? Like some people are single, some people are married, some people are, in relationships, right? But it doesn't matter, because not only, right, do we have that opportunity to grow and learn, and as I'm helping them, right, coach them through those things to identify that next level is, okay, now where you have that grounding in terms of your mindset, in terms of, your direction and where you want to go. Now it's, okay, what are those tools and what are the specific techniques to put those in place? So the mentorship is the key aspect of my business, and I do those in a group coaching way. And depending on people's different involvement and the program that they have, we may be doing one-on-ones, or weekly. It may be every 2 weeks. It may be quick 15-minute check-ins. There's a lot of homework involved for some people. For some people, it's, hey, we're checking in on certain things. But then the other work are the master classes, the masterminds, and the memberships. So the master classes are either, weekly, or several week in a row specific classes. And most recently, I'm focusing on unpacking anti-Blackness. And with that, right, I'm really helping people, regardless of their background, regardless of their country of origin or any of it, helping to look at that programming. And so the master classes are something that people can take part in, from the public. They basically can just go to vondapage.com, my website, and they'll, find events and things there. But the other 2 things, the masterminds and membership. So the masterminds is something that I hold periodically. So such as the Destination Dump DEI Live, that is considered a mastermind. So a mastermind is a 3-day in-person experience where where each day has a very specific goal and a very specific outcome, where in Destination Dump DEI Live, people are actually going to get to, on that first day, really dive deeply into, what the vision of diversity, equity, inclusion was. We're going to get into how it failed. And even though the goals are still there, really getting into why we have to dump DEI, because to get to what we were trying to get to, we're not going to do it. On day 2, we get to really talking about what is the dream? Where are we really trying to go? And what does that look like for you? Whether you're an individual practitioner, whether you are a leader in an organization, or you just trying to get it figured out. And then on that third day, right, in the mastermind, what it happens is you walk away with your plan. You walk away with, here's my steps that I'm going to do over the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days to actually make this a real thing. So masterminds, I open them up to the public. However, they're really targeted, right, for people that have a genuine, true engagement, right, and vested interest in understanding why we need to dump DEI, and we really need to focus on alleviating anti-Blackness. Now, those masterminds also, what's cool is somebody could say, hey, you know what? We have a very niche organization, right? So like I work with law firms, government agencies, and academia, right? But they might say, you know what? Like we have a law firm that specializes in child advocacy. And we want to really make sure that we understand the role of diversity, equity, inclusion has played in how children's, services have been delivered, blah, blah, blah. So we want you to come in and do this with us. If that's the case, then I do that as well, right? So I would come in for 3 or 4 days, right? Work intensely with the leadership team and then work with them over time, right? In a mentorship type of capacity to help them get those goals that they were trying to get. And then finally, I have memberships, and the memberships give people the opportunity to get the content, to engage with the content, right? In a way that they can consistently learn the new skills, right? They can learn change. They can, adopt those attitudes and things that are going to help them unpack anti-Blackness so that they can then unlearn it. And so, master classes, masterminds, memberships, but the Radical Results mentorship is my key thing, and something that I just love doing so much.
It's a passion. But you
Yeah.
also have an event coming up in November. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, I do. I am super excited to talk about my event coming up in November. It's going to be November 15th, 16th, and 17th in Washington, D.C. We're going to announce the location next week, and it is called Destination Dump DEI Live. And Destination Dump DEI Live is a 3-day event for decision makers, professionals, and practitioners in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space who are really fed up and fatigued and really frustrated because DEI has not lived up to its promises. Everything that, we keep on talking about, we're going to get to true inclusion, we're going to have real belonging, we're going to have equity. We don't have it. And so at Destination Dump DEI Live, November 15th through the 17th in Washington, we're going to dig into it, and you're going to walk away with your personal anti-Blackness alleviation plan, which is going to help you determine how you need to move forward in dumping diversity, equity, inclusion so that we can alleviate anti-Blackness.
I love it. I love it. I think it's going to be a great event. But also that not only with your event, but with your services, do you also go to corporate America and said, like the corporations and said, hey, I can help you, your leaders, to stop doing this instead doing that? Do you also offer your mentorship to them as well?
Absolutely. So one of the cool things is, there's two types of mentorships. There is the organizational or institutional membership and the individual. And so what I do for organizations is I have packages for them where they can have up to 12 leaders from their organization participate in the mentorship together. And so, for example, let's say it's a really large organization, right? You could have
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2 people from finance, maybe there would be 3 people from IT, 2 people from human resources, 1 person from operations, 2 people from sales. Imagine a powerful group like that of leaders, not only, right, working together and having that understanding of their common goals as an organization, but then leveling up their own individual leadership skills, right? Stepping up their own strategies and building up skills to be able to understand how to do it collectively and internally. That's just next level. So not only do I work with individuals at the professional and practitioner, decision maker, executive level, but with organizations specifically in academia, specifically in the legal field, and government and STEM. Because number one, right, STEM has been the field that I've been in my entire career. But if you think about academia, right, higher education, you think about law and government, those are the arms at which, right, the decisions are made. Those are the arms at which policies are made. Those are the arms in which intellect, right, information, data, and science is applied, right, to make policies that get implemented that impact all of us. And so I'm going to those decision makers. My clients specifically should be from those STEM fields, law, higher education, and government, because those are the leaders that need to step up. Those are the leaders that need to adopt, right, a real serious focus about meeting the moment, because we have real challenges right now, and
Yes,
real challenges, right, require radical change. So
exactly.
boom.
Before I let you go, I have two questions for you. And the first one is what do you think that as women we can do to get in leadership position where we can express ourselves and also fix the gap that we have in this world right now?
I think the number one thing is, and this is going to be hard for a lot of people. Number one, be yourself. Stop trying to be like anyone else. Stop trying to do what somebody told you to do. Stop trying to fit the mold. Stop trying, okay, to be somebody else's version of you. The thing we can do to get leadership positions, the things we can do to be heard, the things we can do to make change, the things we can do to level up from leadership to legendary is to be ourselves and be bold, be brilliant, and be brave.
Well said. Do you have any advice for businesswomen starting out?
Oh, definitely. My first piece of advice for business women starting out is to find a mentor. And that doesn't necessarily mean, somebody that you are able to work with, intensely one on one, but look for mentors, meaning look for people who have reached a level of success or have achieved something that you think you might want to achieve, and start following those people. One thing that I think, looking back, if I had, if you said, if I could go back 20 years or 30 years, what I would have done is I would have purposely sought out people who are doing or were doing what I wanted to do. And I would have tried to connect with those people. I would have tried to follow those people. So, for an example, I always, from the time I was a little girl, I wanted to be a broadcast news person. I wanted to travel around the world, interview people, and do news, right? I even studied that in college, but I didn't get a mentor in that field. I never followed the career of somebody closely or watched a person. And so if you have an interest as something as a young woman, no matter what it could be science, it could be technology, it could be art. Start following people that are where you think your interest lies and get a mentor.
Exactly. It's not me that said it. She did. She said it. She said it. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Vonda, for a great conversation. I try not to get too much into talking about everything that's going on in this world when it comes to Black, because if I get into it, I probably will be in the next Martin Luther King under the ground. So, it is a very hard topic, and it's something that we do need to speak up more, because if we don't, then who else gonna do it? We have to be the advocate for our Black folks, for our children coming up, either the mix or the straight Black. They go through the same issues that we are facing, and I think that if we don't step up for them, who else going to? And I think that's something I need to teach myself every day, that even that if people not gonna like what I have to say, but I need to say it so that the next generation can hear it. And I thank you for bringing that conversation in to allow me to be a part of it as well. And I appreciate what you are doing in leadership, because we do need more women and more men, Black especially, to stand up as leaders and guide, because we need that guidance.
It was my pleasure. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. And hey, I think we should do it again sometime.
Definitely. A lot happened in the past few years, from COVID to race issues, and the list goes on. It's great to know we have people standing up for others and giving them a voice. This kind of conversation, we should have them more often, but for whatever reason, we rather don't. Thank you, Vonda, for taking the time to have this conversation with me. Let me know your thoughts about this episode with Vonda. And to learn more about Vonda and Radical Change LLC, visit www.vondacpage.com. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.